morning just wide awake and oh man. Hey, good morning, everybody. I hope you're having a great start to your day. Wow, it's already Wednesday. The week is flying by. I get to meet a bunch of the youth and the kids tonight here at Full Gospel in Lawrenceburg, and I'm excited about that and getting going. I'm gonna be here for a couple days, home for a couple days, back and forth. And I'll just be honest with you. Last night around 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 Eastern, 3 Central, I woke up wide awake and my mind was just running. Um, I looked at some houses. There's one we got in mind. Still a little higher than we want to pay. I'm trying to, I've got some money set aside now for a down payment, but you got some paperwork. You're trying to move. All these things are going. I mean, it's just stressful. And then on top of all that, what woke me up at 3 in the morning wasn't a need to go to the bathroom or something else. I realized I got an email yesterday. It said, Dana Coverstone, please remember that your driver's license expires on March 14th, which is like 4 weeks, okay? And I'm thinking, oh, I don't want to have to pay for a driver's license twice. And so that put more pressure on me because everything's got to fit. It's got to go someplace. And it's just overwhelming. I'll tell you, it's just absolutely overwhelming. And at moments, it becomes more and more overwhelming to me, trying to figure it all out. I miss my wife, I miss my dogs, I miss those times in the office with my son. So my life's changed a lot, but I'm excited to be here. I'm getting the lay of the land, figuring stuff out, shortcuts to get to the church and things, and started doing office hours. But it's still overwhelming. I appreciate your prayers. Those of you that think that pastors don't ever have any stress and they just got it all together, well, I got a whole different story for you. I'm as human as you are, and I lose sleep over stuff sometimes. All right, hotair.com. It's racist to like dogs, apparently. Um, for the people in New York City, I am so sorry that you are getting exactly what you voted for. But after some of the things that Mad Donnie, that's what I call him, not Ma'am Donnie, Mad Donnie, is doing, you have to wonder if you're going to have anything left from your retirement, from your bank account, because everything's about to be taxed. You're going to start taxing the amount of times you can breathe in a minute. In some places in the West and even in England, they're trying to ban dogs. And all I've got to say is the entire world can come against me and my dogs, and I will defend them, and I'll fight for them, and I will tell them who to bite. They may not bite you very, very hard, but they got sharp little teeth, and I'll make sure they hurt you. But it's sad. It's sad that the creeds and the tenets of Islam are now being pushed on the world in ways that are hurting it financially, relationally, and anything else. Okay, Fox News article, Alice Berenson says, I warned about cannabis dangers 7 years ago and nobody wanted to listen. I saw something in my brother years ago before he passed away. My brother had a pancreas transplant and began to have serious issues with it. It wasn't where the pancreas didn't like what was going on. It was just the fact that it wasn't fixing the problem. And one of his diabetic specialist doctors really pushed him to get the CBD oil and things like that. And it helped for a little bit, and then it didn't. And there were doctors pushing more and more and more. But now we're finding out, especially in some of the states that legalize marijuana, you got people that are driving not drunk. Now they're driving under the influence of marijuana, and you just have to ask yourself, when I was a kid in the 70s, everybody talks about, marijuana and wacky weed and all this other stuff and gateway drugs. And obviously it was and still is. But I think you got to be careful. And I've talked about medical marijuana and stuff like that before. Folks, we need to trust the Lord to bring healing, but we also need to have a good sense of understanding of what these things do. And there's a reason why the FDA should test something for 7 years before they prescribe it to everybody else out there, unlike some those things that got pushed on everybody. So just use your head. All right, Fox News. This one's a good one, okay? If you got coffee in your mouth, please drink it, swallow it, or just go ahead and spit it on somebody or out, okay? Inside world's top science society's convention bashing Trump, pushing DEI and pronouns. It felt like a funeral. One of the world's largest and most influential scientific societies held its annual conference last weekend, which a Fox News digital review found was littered with examples of progressive messaging, criticisms of the Trump administration, and woke workshops. Attendees who showed up at the American Association for the Advancement of Science, AAAS, event held at the Phoenix Convention Center from February 12th to the 14th were immediately greeted at registration with identifier stickers that use gender pronouns such as they, them, XI/XER, XE/XEM, and other descriptors that critics have alleged have little to do with science and biology. And not just critics, normal human people like me think that's ridiculous. The placement, during the meeting's opening night, shortly after a 10-minute hoop dance routine from a national Native American dancers, the Dr. Sudip, Sudip Parikh told the audience that it's been a hard and tough year for science and the scientists in this country. He went on to blame Doge for the devastation of some of our science agencies and the president's budget request that cut science by half, and in his opinion, amounted to forfeiting our future. Well, when there's people who think that men can become women, women can become men, and you can do all sorts of drugs to make somebody become that, pretty much there's no science in that. There's no science at all. He says, what happened over the course of last year is a rupture. We're not going back. It's not possible. Too much damage has been done. Too much has changed. There's an entire generation of scientists that have a scar that's not going to go away. There's an entire generation of scientists who lost their minds. That's what it is. He adds that scars can make us tougher and become almost shields that build resilience. He also warned last year that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was the wrong person for Health and Human Services as Secretary. I still feel that way, which prompted laughter and applause. He says it's going to take protests. Not science, not facts. It's going to take protests. It's going to take politics. It's going to take the ability to not speak gibberish. Well, when you say that a man can be a woman, that's gibberish. So it's just interesting to see that the science world has abandoned science and said, hey, we don't need that. Don't worry. And then there's another article. I'm pretty sure, I don't think I read this one yesterday, but it's a Zero Hedge article, and it says this: what price will you pay for what you need? And this is literally about rare earth minerals. This is about the things that are out there going on. These are about the things in life that you got to have. For me, a life-saving thing is insulin. If I don't have insulin, I'm in trouble. I can trust God to take care of things, but there's some things out there that you got to have. And common sense isn't something you buy. It's something you gain and you learn over life. It's passed down from the loved ones around us and the wise people around us. But we have to understand that science has lost its mind. Washington, D.C. has lost its mind. New York is quickly losing their mind. California, I don't know what they did with their mind, but they did something with it. I'm not talking about the people. I'm just talking about life in general. Folks, Romans 1, we're living in Romans 1 every single day in America. So that's where we are. Continue to pray that I'm able to find the right house at the right price, working on funds and things like that. God's going to come through. I have no doubt. All right. First Chronicles chapter 10. And yes, we're kind of, like I said, we're jumping a lot of the genealogy part. Not because I don't believe in genealogies, but I just know that I encourage you, go through the genealogies and pick some names out, go back through the Bible dictionary, look at those people, find out who they were, how they relate, where they are in the line and the lineage of stuff. The First Chronicles chapter 10 and verses 1 through 7. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled before the Philistines and fell slain on Mount Gilboa. Now, chapter 10, verse 1, the writer is going to begin this summary of Israel's history, reading from the notes, starting with the time of the kings, which was Saul. He's going to give the reason why God's rejected Saul as king, transferred the kingdom to David. And the remaining events in this book are going to deal with the history of David and his lasting significance. So this is just another look at the world as it was during the time of Saul and David and how things got to where they were. And the Philistines overtook Saul and his sons, and the Philistines struck down Jonathan and Abinadab and Micah-Shua, the sons of Saul. The battle pressed hard against Saul, and the archers found him, and he was wounded by the archers. Now, I want you to think about this. It says the archers found him. The archers were looking, were watching, were spying, were looking intently at the landscape before them, and somebody says, hey, I see him. He's there. You start reading through history, war history, and the people that saw and fought against the Romans had this system down. They knew how to fight. They knew how to advance. They knew how to flank. They knew where to put troops exactly where they needed to be. They knew war. They understood war. They were taking nations over. They were kingdom builders. They were kingdom takers. And the empire of Rome was huge. But the enemy sees him. And he was wounded by the archer. And then Saul said to his armor bearer, draw your sword and thrust me through with it, lest these uncircumcised come and mistreat me. So he looks to his armor bearer and he says, young man, I need you to run me through. Wow. Wow. Draw your sword and thrust me through. Now look, that would have been sword right about here on the chest. Just push it through. Sometimes it was like a soldier's death going down behind the neck and down the spine. That would kill you instantly. But Saul was saying, look, I've been wounded. And if the enemy gets a hold of me, they'll cut my head off. They'll drag it off. They'll do something terrible with my body. So please kill me now, so they won't do something even worse to me. But his armor bearer would not speak, for he feared greatly. He's like, I can't do that. No way am I going to do that. Therefore Saul took his own sword and he fell on it. Saul took his own life. He was wounded. He was worried about what was going to happen to him if he didn't die. Because the Philistines were not known for their royal and great treatment of prisoners or of kings. When you were the king, you were the monkey they had on a leash. They'd parade you around and do terrible things to you. Saul watched everything fall. His sons, the enemy has surrounded him. The man to whom the prophet say obedience is better than sacrifice. When Saul disobeyed what God had told him to do. And when his armor bearer saw that Saul was dead, he also fell upon his sword and died too. The armor bearer was the one that held the sword, made sure that the armor was pinched together, was connected, and made sure that there was no holes, there was no chink in the armor, so to speak, that you could get an arrow through or anything else. A lot of people look at this and believe that either when Saul got hit, it was either in the neck, which could be life-threatening, or the hands, the forearms, or the feet. And most of the time, your feet were covered with some type of armor. But if you had an arrow go through your foot, you're not going to be able to run very quickly. People taking, I just saw Alexis's comment, and it's going to be more. It's not a question you can answer in 2 or 3 minutes. I mean, this was premeditated. Saul knew what he was doing in order to protect himself. We don't hear anything that he said, "Oh God, you got to forgive me for what I've done. I didn't listen. I didn't obey. I didn't honor you. I didn't do all those things." Saul was not the model king. However, neither was David. Thus Saul died. 3 sons in his house died together. Thankfully, they noted, and I mean this thankfully when I say this, thankfully they noted that the armor bearer saw that the Saul was dead. He killed himself, most likely because they would recognize who it was that served the king. And if they were going to come after you, they're going to come after those that serve the king. And that's why anyone in a presidential administration who supports what the president does, guess what? When the enemy comes, it goes against those people too, because you want to take every support lack out. Any pillar of support has to go down according to the enemy. Thus Saul died. He and his 3 sons and all his house died together. That war, that battle, took it out, ended it completely. And all the men of Israel who were in the valley saw that the army had fled and that Saul and his sons were dead. They abandoned their cities and they fled. Let me read that again. And when all of the men of Israel who were in the valley saw that the army had fled and that Saul and his sons were dead, they abandoned their cities and they fled. And the Philistines came and lived in them. Look down to verse 13 real quick, because you're going to see a pattern. So Saul died for his breach of faith. Saul died for his breach of faith. The first king that Israel ever had died because of a breach of faith. It's sad, isn't it? It's so sad. And I know people who were loving God, serving God, royally transformed through salvation, and then walked away from it. And it's sad. It's just really, really sad. We are going to fail every day. We're going to deal with worry, concern, strife. And this is a pretty it's a pretty horrible passage, isn't it? Saul gets shot with an arrow. The armor bearer won't kill him because he doesn't want to touch the Lord's anointed, just like David didn't. So Saul takes his own life. Then the armor bearer is like, "Oh no, look what he's done this. If they come, they're going to come for Saul, they'll come for me too." A lot of people want to argue about whether or not there was an honorable death. You know what? It doesn't matter to me. There was politics at play. There was protocol at play. But I wonder what would have happened if Saul had just trusted the Lord, kept serving the Lord, been faithful to God. But he and his 3 sons who died in the battlefield, would his armor bearer had to kill himself too because of what Saul had done. I mean, once again, the world rides on the word if Saul had done this, if God, you and I have to live in the real world where our actions matter and things happen and things don't happen. When you guys hand at work in our lives. if Saul had just stayed faithful. If David had gone to battle instead of staying home in the times in the spring when kings go to war. Wouldn't it be great if there was no story about Absalom? Because Absalom had never killed his brother? Because David had not been unfaithful with Bathsheba? Uriah had not been murdered? I mean, wouldn't that not be fantastic if that was the case? And yet God said, all right, you're going to do it. I'm going to put it in the Bible. Somebody's going to read about this and learn about your life and what you did. And I'm glad it's in there. It becomes a warning to you and I. A lot of stuff's going on, folks. A lot of stuff is going on. A lot of stuff's going on in your life and mine. If you haven't felt that the pressure, the weight is just pushing down on us, and we stay faithful, and we stay focused, and we keep going. When there's pain, when there's frustration, when things aren't going right, when the doors don't open, when the money doesn't come, when the hope that you've had on your heart never gets fulfilled, so we look forward. We press onward. Press onward. Press onward. When it's hard, when it's hot, when life is heavy, you press on. You press on. You press on. We can learn a lot from the failures in the Bible, and not just about what not to do. But we can look and study the character flaws and the things that need to change, not just in the ones that we read about, but when we see those things reflected in our lives, well, guess what? Sometimes you just have to hang on. And sometimes it will seem to you like God hasn't been listening, doesn't care, isn't hanging around at all. You're just out there, and that's it. And it's easy as a believer to think, okay, God, I know you're with me, but boy, it sure doesn't feel like you are when you're out of your element. You know, my routine that I had for 15 years, that ended last week. And now I'm trying to establish a whole new one. And I'm looking for a home, and I don't know how far I'm gonna be from the church, and this and that, and trying to figure out how that's all gonna look and work. And I'll tell you what, as I told you, I was up this morning, my mind just running. And I had to catch myself saying, Lord, I need you to slow my mind down. My heart rate, my iWatch was starting to, hey, heart rate's high. Okay. Lord, I need you just to slow me down. We get overwhelmed. But I'm glad that when I'm overwhelmed, he's right there. So, hey, folks, let's go ahead and pray, all right? Spirit of the living God, I'm asking you today to give peace to those that need peace. Well, right now, I need peace. Not just because of a home and all the transitions with the move, all those things that are going to happen in my life in the next 2 to 4 weeks. Well, they're overwhelming. And there are someone here that are dealing with medical issues, someone here dealing with financial issues, someone here dealing with relational issues. Lord, there are things going on in families that just defy description, understanding. Lord, there are folks on here that need patience like they've never needed before. There are people listening right now, Lord, and will listen later, who do not have the peace that passes all understanding. Because their life is a whirlwind. Their life's a whirlwind, Lord. And I pray, oh God, you'll keep us steady. You'll keep us faithful. You'll help us be everything you've called us to be. And Lord, make the path clear. I think all of us on here have probably gone through enough storms and rain, heavy rain. Some have gone through fires and firestorms. Some have gone through tornadoes. Some on here, Lord, have lived through hurricane issues. Some have had to live outside their home because of fires or water damage. And right now, it just seems like the whole world's in a in a holding pattern place. And everyone's afraid to move because we're just afraid if we move, the whole thing's going to fall apart. That's how fragile our society and our culture and our world is right now. But we know, Lord, literally, you have the whole world in your hands. And you have our lives. And you have our hearts. So, Father, show us. Show us who you are. Show us where we're going. And God, when it's not clear, stabilize things around us by stabilizing the things inside of us first, God, because if we're okay inside, we'll be able to assess what's happening outside a whole lot better. It'll make a whole lot more sense. Even when it cannot and will not make sense to us, if we've got your will at work in our lives, we can know, we can trust, we can hold on to the fact that you are going to bring us through. And you're going to provide all that we need in your time, in your way, and in your will. The Spirit of the living God fall fresh on me today. With anointing, with passion, with drive, with hunger and thirst for righteousness. Spirit of the living God, fall fresh on those that are listening right now and draw us to you. May our eyes ever be fixed upon you, Lord. No matter what happens around us, may our eyes ever be fixed on you. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. Folks, I don't know if you've ever read Fox's Book of Martyrs, or if you have ever read the stories of some of the people that were killed in the Colosseum. I'll tell you, I am very impressed with the way that some of the people that are martyrs, their response when they're about to die, right before the lions attack, or right before the Roman soldiers fired arrows into their bodies. Entire families wiped out. And you hear stories of men and women and children looking up. Kind of like Stephen did. And he said, I see Jesus standing at the right hand of the Father. He's got his eye on you, folks. He's got his eye on you. So when things get heavy and life is tough, and you're starting to wonder, Lord, are you there? I can promise you that he is. I can promise you that he is. So, folks, thanks for watching today. I'll be back on this afternoon at noon. You'll see the new office, so to speak, a little bit of it. And I'll be talking about, from the perch, we'll be talking about the authority of the believer and what Andrew said. I've had a lot of people in the last 2 days that have sent me comments about the data dream. And I believe God still speaks to people, speaks to you. He's going to continue to speak through people. And I'm thankful that we're able to see what God's doing. But I'll be talking about the authority of the believer. Annalie had also asked me a question to kind of throw in there, and I will. From the perch is basically just we're looking at something in culture, something in the world, something in theology or teaching um, that we want to address and talk about. That I want to make clear. So today we're going to talk about the authority of the believer, and there's a whole lot of look. There's a whole lot of teaching out there on the authority of the believer that is bad. Um, a lot of stuff in the Word of Faith and the way out there theology. You don't tell God what He has to do. And anytime you start praying in a way that you think you can tell God what He has to do, that's going to be bad for you and for those involved. So we'll talk about the authority of the believer, and we'll see what the Word says about it. All right, folks, have a great rest today. Hope to see many of you at noon. And remember, I will be live tomorrow. I'll not be praying. I'm not in Burksville. I won't be praying with the guys on Thursdays. So I'll be live live on Thursdays doing this. And we'll go from there. So, folks, hope to see you at noon for another From the Perch. All right. Hey, God bless. Have a great rest of the day.